Hello, everyone, and welcome in. I am Aaron St. Denis. This is the Mad Science Lab podcast, hosted by the combination of the Fantasy Football Universe and the Fantasy Football Advice Network. Today, I'm here to continue on with the 2024 Dynasty Risers and Fallers series. And my guest today is John McGlynn. John, thank you for joining me. How's it going?
It's going good. Happy Thirsty Thursday, man. Have a beer. Have a good time. It's what it's all about. It's the off season.
My work schedule today, Thursday's my Monday. It's
tomorrow's my Friday. I have a 4-on-4 off rotating 12-hour shift schedule. So tomorrow's my Friday.
I wish. Congratulations to you.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks for joining me. Before we get into this here, you want to take a second to tell everyone where they can find you and your work?
John McGlynn 75 on X on the Des Bryant machine. I'm on Fantasy and Frames with Jorge Edwards, all them guys. I'm on Fantrax with Nick Scripp. I do a Dynasty. I just changed brands. I had Commissioner Evaluation show, like I was telling you before. I changed it to Dynasty Evaluation now, just because I think a lot of people thought I was just a strict Commissioner show. So it'll be called Dynasty Evaluation going forward, and it'll be mostly Dynasty with Commissioner stuff wrinkled in. But that's the way it was anyway before. Just people just thought it was like a Commissioner show, I think, and weren't really paying attention. But I'm here to talk Dynasty. I love the offseason. This is part of the reason why all of us these degenerates are talking on these microphones in the offseason right now, because we can't get enough of this stuff. And that's what I'm here for, man.
Yeah, it's rookie season. It is rookie season. And you don't realize how much of a degenerate you are. I had a guy at work today. I hadn't seen him in a couple of weeks, and he said, "Your podcast is really in depth. You know that, right?" I'm like, "What are you talking about?" He's like, "Well, you're down to like rookie previews that I've never even heard of the player." And I'm like, "Huh? What?" I'm like, "We're not even that deep right now." He's like, "I've never heard of this Marshawn Lloyd guy." I'm like, "He's going to go in like the second or third round in your drafts. How do you not know who he is?" "Oh, I've never heard of half the guys you've talked about." I'm like, they're like household names to me and you, but ask like people at work and they're like, they know like the top 6 rookies. And they're like, "I don't know who the hell this guy is." So
yeah,
you never realize how much of a degenerate you are until you're faced with a non-degenerate. So,
right.
All right, let's get into it. We will start with your riser, which is my favorite. I love me some Roschon Johnson. I had him all year. I had him everywhere. He is in his second year. Last year finished as RB47, 352 yards on 81 rushing attempts, 2 rushing touchdowns, 34 catches on 40 targets for 209 receiving yards and 0 receiving touchdowns. Currently on Keep Trade Cut, he is RB30. He's RB32 on Fantasy Pros. Overall, he's 137 on Keep Trade Cut, 102 on Fantasy Pros, single QB, obviously. Where do you see him, and how high do you see him rising? Because right now he seems to be mid to low end RB3 in value, just outside the top 100. What do you got?
I like him a lot. He's one of these guys that his potential is through the roof, because you see him catch balls from Justin Fields. He's constantly getting these dump off passes. It's kind of what he's used for his rookie year. Dante Foreman was kind of like the workhorse, and Khalil Herbert was there too. It was just one of these things where Justin Fields ran the ball more than the backfield did most of the games. It was kind of a lost situation. It was nothing but screen passes. The offense was just terrible. It wasn't a good situation for Roschon as his freshman. Plus his concussion, I think they took it easy on him because he was out for a couple of weeks with a concussion. It
came up pretty bad. It was weeks 6, 7. Well, he left early, it looks like, in week 5, and then missed all of 6 and 7 and played limited snaps in week 8. So a solid 3-4 week stretch there. But yeah.
Yeah, that's not people take concussions a lot. Back in the day when we were kids, you had a concussion after your 3rd or 4th one when you couldn't stand up anymore. They gave you a drink of water and gave you 2 plays off. And now it's
walk it off. Yep.
Yeah. Now it's a whole different story. So, Roschon is a bigger dude. At his height, it's what, 6'1", like 6 foot, like 219, 215, something like that.
6 foot 225.
Even bigger than I thought. So it's one of those, and he's fast. He's faster than Josh Jacobs. He's faster than Ramondre Stevenson. He does all the things those guys do. With this offense, I think what's going to happen is they're going to slowly, give him the workhorse role throughout the season, kind of getting Khalil Herbert out of the area and letting Roschon be the number one back. But he can do it all. He can run between the tackles. He can be a goal line back. He can block. He's a good receiving back out of the backfield. He's got soft hands. There's nothing that he can't do on a football field that the Bears need him to do, or anybody needs him to do for that matter. But he'll be with the Bears for the next 3 years, and I can see him going up. A lot of players like him, the kind of guys who are receiving backs, they don't really have a role for their freshman year.
Yeah.
Bigger and bigger. They move into a bigger role as their seasons progress. I think the teams just kind of, I'm not sure that the bigger guys are used to getting hit at the NFL level like they did in college. They were running people over. In the pros, they're going against linebackers who are the same size as them, and that didn't happen in college. So you got to ease those guys into the NFL. He really did well on the dump off passes where he got out in the open, was able to outrun people. His maneuverability for a bigger guy is pretty damn good, man.
I loved him coming out of college. I said that he carved out a sizable role in that Texas offense behind Bijan. I'm not talking he was a guy who came in occasionally when Bijan was tired. They had Bijan and still gave him a decent role in that offense. I said if he could have stayed this year and come out this year with Travion Henderson not coming out, I think he's the RB1 in this class. I'm low on this year's rookie class for running backs. I really liked him last year. I thought he was great. And the fact that he was buried behind Bijan on the Texas depth chart is why nobody ever heard of him for most of the people I know, but I really like him. If I can get him as RB3 value in Dynasty, like I'm trying to find his teammates here. I think he's in the same range as Khalil Herbert is 3 below him. Sorry. And then who's the third one I'm forgetting? Is it still Deonta Foreman? No, hey?
Deonta Foreman's in there, yeah.
Is it? Okay, does Deonta Foreman? He's nowhere to be found.
Foreman's contract's up, so he's out. Like, he won't be here anymore.
That's what I thought, so that's even better. So you're going to – I think he's the pass downs back for sure, and I think he's big enough. He could be the running downs back. I'm not all that high on Khalil Herbert myself, but –
I tell you what, when David Montgomery was there, I was pretty happy when he was leaving because we finally got to see Khalil Herbert. But now I'm more excited to see Roschon Johnson than I am Khalil Herbert. So I just feel like Roschon is just a better all around back than Herbert. Even though I liked Herbert a lot back in the day, I just like Roschon so much more.
Yeah, I had a Dynasty work league that I couldn't take anymore. I just didn't have enough time. And I had an awesome team and I gave it away, and another coworker took it, and I went to him and I said, Roschon Johnson's on your team. So help me God, if you cut him before he breaks out, I'm going to lose my mind on you. Just so you know, I said, don't you cut him. I'm like, if he gets a fair shot this year, he's going to be top 20, I think. So I am high on Roschon.
Do you like Roschon Johnson better than Braylon Allen?
Yeah, I like Roschon Johnson better than any of the running backs in this class.
Good. In my eyes, they're kind of close. They do a lot of similar things. I think Roschon's a better pass catcher, and Braylon Johnson is not a good pass blocker. I mean, that's his biggest deficiency. But I think they both run pretty well. They're both pretty fast for their size. They're that kind of stuff. But I think Roschon's a better all around football player. Yes.
And that's it. I don't think there are in this running back class. I don't think there are any all around. Either they're too small, or they can't catch, or they can't block. There was no obvious Bijan or Jahmyr Gibbs. There wasn't even a Roschon where it's like pretty good receiver, pretty good running back, pretty good blocker. There's a few guys who are really good runners, terrible pass catchers. Awesome pass catcher, can't rush worth a damn. So yeah, I like Roschon better than anyone in this class. And if he had stayed out, I think he goes RB1 in this draft.
Truth.
So, all right, we will move on here to your faller, who is Buffalo Bills wide receiver Khalil Shakir. He's not a free agent. No, he's still on his rookie deal. Okay. He has finished as wide receiver 130 and wide receiver 61, but man, was he getting a lot of hype to end the season. All of a sudden, he was everyone's breakout. Last year, he had 39 receptions on 45 targets, 611 yards, 2 touchdowns. I assume a lot of that hype is based around the Stephon Diggs looking a step slower and Gabe Davis being a free agent. Let's see what they have. Keep Trade Cut has him as wide receiver 61, 167 overall. Fantasy Pros has him as wide receiver 68, 162 overall. So he's going in the wide receiver 60s and 160 overall. So his price isn't all that high, but I think it's going to get higher once you see Gabe Davis sign somewhere that's not Buffalo. And if they don't draft anyone, it's just going to be assumed that he's going to be the number 2. And I'm not so sure that's necessarily something I want. Like, oh, he's Gabe Davis's replacement. Well, Gabe Davis wasn't very good for fantasy. So
no, it's not even that. It's that like Khalil Shakir got thrown on the outside for a game, like kind of playing a slot, but he was expected to be number 2 wide receiver. And literally his entire season, he had 2 games that were like 30% of the entire production of his 39 receptions for the entire season. He had a good playoff game with 7 receptions in the playoffs and a touchdown. And everybody's like, oh, he could step in for Gabe Davis. He could be the number 2 guy. He's not. When the Bills draft, who do you think, like either Troy Franklin or Brian
Franklin
Thomas?
is who
Probably,
I was going to say. If they go the end of the first round, it's probably Franklin, but could be end of the second round for Adonai Mitchell or someone.
I bet you it's going to be. I'm hoping that it's Brian Thomas because I think he's just a bigger him and
You thinking end of the first round or end of the second for Brian Thomas?
End of the first.
End
I think Brian Thomas is going to go somewhere towards the end of the first.
I thought so too. Yeah.
So if that happens, you're going to put Diggs on one side, Thomas on the other side. They run 2 tight end sets all the time, and they have a running back that had more receptions than Khalil Herbert last year. I think Khalil Shakir will be a good like third down receiver or a good possession receiver, but I mean his yards per target isn't that good. He's not like that guy who's always open. He catches the ball. He doesn't drop the ball. That's his number one asset. I don't think he dropped this ball all season long. And he got pelted by pretty fast pitches from Josh Allen coming at close range.
Only had 6 incompletions out of 45 targets, so that's impressive. But.
And a couple of those weren't even his fault; they were just overthrown and behind him, stuff like that. So yeah, it was. He does catch the ball. He's like a vacuum when the ball gets thrown at him. But there's not a spot in this offense for if they draft a big outside receiver on the opposite side of Diggs. They run a 2 tight end sets with Kincaid and Dawson Knox, and they have a running back come out of the backfield. Where does the production going to come for you to draft him as a number 3 receiver or a high number 2 receiver? And who wants a number 4 receiver that's going to have boom bust weeks anyway on their fantasy team? I don't get it. I get it because people saw him in the playoffs and he had such a good game. He had the 9 targets, 7 receptions, kind of in a touchdown. Like, oh, he's the heir apparent. He's not the heir apparent. He's not that guy.
But we did this with Gabe Davis. He had that 4 touchdown playoff game, and then we boosted his value for 3 years and never did anything. And also, the Bills were really riding James Cook pretty hard towards the end. They made it obvious that they look like they intend to run the ball significantly more going forward, just to take less wear and tear on Josh Allen, if anything. So I'm not sure his role, like you said, they add another mouth to feed. You have to assume Dalton Kincaid also is more involved in this offense as a second-year tight end.
Yeah, and they signed Knox to almost a guaranteed 3-year contract, so he's not going anywhere for a minute.
Yeah, okay. Then you've got 2 tight ends who are going to get the ball. So
yeah, I think the offense runs more efficient with 1 tight end, an outside receiver, and a slot receiver because having Knox out there just to block on, that doesn't make any sense. So having Khalil Shakir in the slot makes a lot more sense than both tight ends, but they run that double tight end set and they like to run the ball with dump off passes and screen passes and stuff. So. It is what it is. I mean, whatever works for that offense is fine, but I don't see Khalil Shakir having a big part of it.
Yeah, his cost isn't anything crazy. It's just he's one of those guys where I'm looking and you have to try and find a path to fantasy points. I don't see a route that he can take where he's a highly productive guy for fantasy. And if I look in this, he's on Fantasy Pros in tier 7. Tier 7 goes from 56 all the way to 74. So it's like 18 players. The players I can get in his range here, Brian Thomas Jr., we've got Marvin Mims, a second-year player, could be decent. Xavier Worthy should be decent. Keon Coleman, another rookie. Rashid Shaheed, I thought, had a better role in the Saints offense last year. Then you've got Dontavian Wicks. I didn't mind if you want Ladd McConkey or Adonai Mitchell. I think I'd just rather load up on some of these rookie running backs or wide receivers. I think I even prefer Dontavian Wicks or, like I said, Marvin Mims. I don't see a whole lot of players in this range aside from like the really old ones. Like even Quentin Johnston's in this range. I don't see, unless you want to take him over Jonathan Mingo or Treylon Burks because of injury. I don't see a path to him producing.
I mean, Jonathan Brooks right now is a lot of people consider the number 1 running back in this class. He had some. So a late second round pick in rookie drafts right now, you can get Jonathan Brooks for like a mid to late second. Would you trade Khalil Shakir to get Jonathan Brooks in your fantasy team?
In a heartbeat.
See, that's what I'm saying. Like you get Trey Benson, Jonathan Brooks, Jalen Polk, even, kind of Marshawn Lloyd, like we talked about earlier, that kind of stuff. I mean, there's a lot of good players in the end of the second round that you could trade. Instead of having a guy that's going to get 39 receptions no way, man. I'm 100% off Shakir at that price.
I'm looking at one of my rookie mocks here. I'm just trying to bring it up right now. This one's single. I can probably go 2 entire rounds deep of rookies alone that I would take over him, excluding the quarterbacks, obviously. But obviously, Marvin Harrison, Neighbors, Franklin Adunzi, Thomas. I think those are all easy, right? You take every single one of them. Even like we get into Xavier Worthy, Coleman, Adonai Mitchell. I think I'd rather take Polk and Malachi Corley. Then you get into there's 6 running backs that go in the second round here. Brooks, Corum, Benson, Estime, Allen, Lloyd, Johnson. Johnson. I don't even know who that is. Oh, Dylan Johnson. Someone overdrafted Dylan Johnson. So I would take the entire first 2 rounds of this draft, with the exception of maybe Dylan Johnston. But there's still, even into the 3rd round, there's a handful of guys here. Lad McConkey, Roman Wilson. I think Javon Baker. I think I'd rather take a shot on those guys over Khalil Shakir, especially if they get a good landing spot or draft capital. I'm probably taking a early third round rookie pick for Khalil Shakir if I can get it.
Yeah, I'm gonna say that if you after the draft, if somebody drafted like you're not really sure who they want, you could probably trade Shakir after the draft for somebody who, if they didn't draft anybody, I guess that's kind of the that's if the Bills do get which they need a receiver in the 1st round. I think it's inevitable. They don't have any money, so they have to go cheap, and they're going to have to get a receiver in the 1st round. So that
exactly.
they don't have a choice. So after the draft, after the NFL draft, if they don't take someone in the 1st round, but they take someone in the 2nd round, like one of these guys fall to them, I think at that point in time you can sell Shakir, or sell Shakir right now for, if you can get a mid-second, 100% gone off my team.
Yeah, I absolutely think the time to sell is right now, because I can't see a path where they don't draft someone or they sign a free. Well, I guess you're right. They don't have the money for a free agent, but I just can't see a path where he's going up in value this season.
They're like $45 million in the red right now, so they're SOL. They have no choice but to, and they got to sign a handful of defensive players on this team. Like Gabe Davis is gone, Trent Sherfield, not a big deal. But the biggest problem they have right now is the defense. They're losing Daquan Jones, Leonard Floyd, Jordan Phillips, Micah Hyde. Like there's bigger problems than they need a receiver. They have Diggs, Shorter, Gabe Davis, Trent Sherfield. Those guys are both gone. Khalil Shakir and Deontay Hardy is all they have in the receiving core right now.
What year is Josh Allen in? I can't remember. He's already signed his big ticket deal, right?
He did, I think, a year ago.
Yeah, I was gonna say I don't think he's on a rookie deal anymore, so that's not gonna help. You see a lot of these teams where they can make it go, but not with a quarterback who's no longer on his rookie deal. So yeah, I'm not in on Shakir, and like okay, Shakir for Roshan. You're taking Roshan hands down a million times?
100%.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Okay. I think I'd be willing to kick in a pick with Shakir to get Roshan. So
I don't think that Shakir would be, let's just say Shakir leaves and goes somewhere else that there's not so, like he's got a little bit more, they use the slot receiver more, instead of the outside guys. So I'm like, let's just say in somewhere like San Diego, the Chargers, where if Keenan Allen's gone, if he was to go there and get pelted with targets, it'd be a different story because he catches everything. He's like a vacuum. But in Buffalo, it's just not the right system. He's not going to play on the outside. They have 2 tight ends and a running back that catches the ball. So no, I don't see it.
Absolutely. All right. Well, you want to take one more chance here? Tell everyone where they can find you before we get out of here.
John McGlynn 75 on X, and then the Dynasty Evaluation Show it's on Fantrax and on Fantasy and Frames. And thank you very much for having me tonight. I love doing these little videos. It's super fun to come in here, jump in, just take stabs and stuff, and then hit it and quit it kind of thing, But thanks for having me on.
Yeah, thanks for joining me. I love the shorts. And during the season, I do a lot of live and they're full length shows, but I love the off season. It's like sit down, you can have a whole bunch of different people on, chat 15, 20 minutes, and doesn't take too much time on anyone's day. You learn some stuff, you hear how everyone else values them. So thank you again for joining me. This was the Mad Science Lab podcast, hosted by the combination of the Fantasy Football Universe and the Fantasy Football Advice Network. For Aaron and John, thank you all for tuning in. Take care, and we'll see you again tomorrow for the next edition of Dynasty Risers and Fallers. Take care, everyone, and thanks again, John.